It is time. It's time to stop hiding, folks. It's time to stand up. It's time for Christians to come together to share their testimony, to inspire hope, and to join your brothers and sisters as we all answer the call. Folks, it is time to wake up the lions. And I have an absolute lioness with me today who is fighting battles in his name, who is out there doing wonderful works and is spreading her story of faith and perseverance and guidance. And folks, I cannot wait to have you meet this lady. She is the founder of the Alex Hudson Lyme Foundation. She is the author of the book, My Promise to Alex. Please welcome to the show, Jody Hudson. Jody, how are you doing today?
I am doing awesome. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to have this opportunity to share my story with your listeners.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you being here. Now we've got a couple different paths we can go down in terms of your foundation and your book and whatnot. Before we do that, maybe just give everybody a little bit of idea who is Jody Hudson. Kind of what is your story?
Yes, absolutely. So I'll just break it into a little snippet. My story actually starts right at birth. I was born to a single mother who couldn't take care of me, so I was placed in foster care. At 6 months old, I was adopted. And unfortunately, I was adopted into a family who both my mother and father battled alcoholism. So I say I spent most of my childhood trying to forget about my childhood. And then years later, in 2011, after 20 years of being married, I found myself divorced, bankrupt, raising two children on my own, one of which, my daughter, Alex, had been battling already a 10-year medical mystery illness. And it wasn't until 2017, after 40 doctors, that we finally got the proper diagnosis that she had been battling Lyme disease. Unfortunately, we weren't able to get a leg up on that. And in March of 2018, at 22 years old, she passed away from Lyme disease. So I have kind of like a before Alex's death story and an after Alex's death story. And I find that so many people like myself who have lost a loved one, that's kind of your marker. It's like before and the after. But my after is really what I like to focus on because I like to remind people that no matter what we have been dealt with, as long as you keep leaning into your faith, God can really bring you out of anything. And that's really where I like to sit with my story, is just really letting people know how my faith carried me through.
Okay, the and I appreciate that in terms of setting the stage for the after. Um, I'm curious, as I read through your story, you had quite a rough upbringing, and you dealt with an awful lot. Where does the faith come in? Where did you learn that?
It's funny. I think so many times that when we are going through challenges in our lives, we always ask that question, where is God in all of this?
Yeah.
And as a young child, I didn't maybe ask that question all the time. I was born and raised Catholic, so I attended weekly mass, went through all of the sacraments. So I had this idea of what God looked like and what my religion and my faith taught me through the sacraments. But I didn't really have that active of a relationship with God until probably 2016, 2017, when it was my own daughter, Alex, that really brought me deeper into my faith. And so, what does that look like? Well, she was also, born and raised Catholic, and we went through the sacraments, her and her brother. But when she got to be a teenager, she really didn't feel so connected with her church, and she really wanted to delve more into her faith. So she went out and she kind of started doing a survey of non-denominational churches. And she stumbled upon this one that really spoke to her, and the pastor really resonated with her. And she one Sunday said, Mom, she goes, I've been looking at different churches and I really would love to share this one church that I've kind of landed on. Would you like to go to a service with me? Well, I think as a parent, if your child is exploring their faith and they want you to go along and come along with them in that journey. That's something as a parent that we're like, yes, absolutely. So I went to this service. And it was so different. It was the first time I'd been in a non-denominational service. And, if you've been in a Catholic church, we're very formal. We're stand up, sit down, ritualistic, which is very beautiful. And that is what we're used to. So imagine me being brought up in this church setting, and I go into this non-denominational church where people are raising their hands up and they're worshiping and amen and hallelujah. And I'm looking around going, what is happening? But it was so beautiful because in that moment, Alex grabbed my hand and she was, praising and it was like she had really rediscovered her faith. It came alive for her. And I knew that this was going to be a really good church for her to have that community, to have that support, which little did we know, a couple years later, as she was really battling for her life, would be so important to her. So, my faith came along with hers, and I tell people I kind of double dip on the weekends. I would still go to the Catholic Church for my sacraments, but then we would go to the non-denominational church and get our worship on. And I really, along with Alex, discovered a deeper, more active relationship with God in those moments.
Wow. So I take it Alex got her faith base from you then in some capacity, and then decided to really lean into it.
I think we got it from each other. I think it was kind of like in this, exploring, like I, provided the foundation, but she then kind of helped me to really have that more active faith. I feel like so many
Uh,
times we're passive in our faith, but when we stepped into this non-denominational church and really started, exploring more of the Bible and reading the scripture, and both of us sat down and within a year we read the Bible. I'd never done that before with my upbringing in the Catholic Church. So it just really refined our faith, and it was beautiful to be able to go through that with her.
yeah. I can't even imagine what you both have been through. I remember reading in your information, when I was researching this topic, the she was refusing painkillers and relying on her faith to get past it.
Yes. So there are so many reasons why I wrote this book. Number one is Lyme disease is a very complicated disease, and people don't really understand all the different treatments and the therapies and whatnot that one goes through. So I wanted to write this book from a Lyme perspective, but then I also wanted to write it about just Alex's faith journey and just how amazing she was, that she wanted to be ever so present with her faith, that she even denied herself pain medication. She, before she started this, medical health journey, she was about 620 pounds. Within the last couple of months of her life in 2018, she was a shell of herself. She went down to 57 pounds, half of
Oh,
her body weight. So imagine, you're in chronic pain. You are half of what your body used to look like. You're battling all of this, but yet you rise above from that and you want to just be so present in your faith with God. You don't want to miss anything. And she really took on this redemptive suffering. She thought, if I'm going to, be going through this, I want to make this pain worth something. I want to make it count. And so she really, took on others' pain and their suffering in the Lyme community. So many people were reaching out to her and she was praying with them and trying to comfort them. Who does that when they are battling for their own life? And she was only 22 years old,
wow.
right? I mean, she was just so much more mature than her, age, and just a beautiful testimony to God. And there's so many beautiful things in the book that I talk about. And One of them is this parting gift that she left with me. And what I mean by that is, when I talk about grief and I talk with other parents, I feel so horrible for parents that don't have that closure, that aren't able to be with their children when they pass away. But fortunately for me, I was able to be there with Alex when she passed away. She had been homebound for several months. And on the day that she passed, I didn't even know that was going to happen. There's so many times that you think someone's going to pass away and then they rebound and you think,
Right.
okay, got a couple more months with her. But in this case, she was, just comfortable in her bed and reading, and she had fallen asleep. And one of my girlfriends came over to pray with us. And when we walked back into the bedroom, my girlfriend had this sense that she just wanted to call some other of my friends over, Alex's aunties that had been there with us the past year while we were going cross country on all of her medical trips and her journeys. And so we formed this beautiful vigil around Alex's bed while she was napping and, just sharing beautiful stories and memories. And when it came my turn to talk, God told me in that moment, you need to let her go, Jody. She's hanging on. She doesn't want to leave you. And so I told Alex, I said, Alex, I go, I love you so much, but I know that you are suffering and it's okay to go. Like, I want you to be happy. I want you to be able to play with Buddy, your golden retriever, who's up in heaven waiting for you. I was painting this beautiful picture and this scene for her. And I was talking. Alex woke up and she lifted her head from the pillow and she looked up to the ceiling and she had this beautiful, beautiful big smile. And she did this gasp, like out of like wonder and amazement. And then she closed her eyes and she laid her head back on the pillow and she passed. And so in that moment, as I was giving her permission to go and to be back with our Heavenly Father, she was showing me where she was going and she was letting me know, Mom, I'm going to be okay and you're going to be okay because I just showed you where I'm going and it's beautiful and it's not your time yet, but don't worry about me. I'm going to be okay. And so because she gave me that visual and that parting gift, I'm able to move forward. And I turned the whole grief aspect into one of realizing that in Alex's greatest beautiful moment, it was my worst earthly moment, right? I lost a
Right.
child. But if we're truly Christians and truly understand that this is just a little snippet of where we are right now, and that God has something so much better planned for us when we're done here on this earth, then I can be okay with that. And I can say, good job, Alex. You were such a faithful servant. You got called up at 22 years old because you did everything that God asked of you. Now, me, on the other hand, I'm 65, and God's like, Lord, child, you have so much more to learn. You're going to be down on earth for a long time. But if you
Yeah.
can flip that, I mean, that really helped me. And it still carries me through to today, where, yes, of course, I wish I could still be with her. And I wish I could still have all these beautiful moments here on earth. Her, my grandchildren, her wedding, all these things I'm going to miss out on. But if I keep that biblical and that heavenly perspective, it helps me.
Wow. Wow. That's an incredible story. She sounds like an absolutely amazing young lady.
She really, she was and she is. I mean, I wrote this book thinking if one person could just read it and be touched by it and see how amazing she was, that would make my heart so happy. And to know years later, I've gotten so many beautiful reviews on Amazon. I have people reaching out to me that have read Alex's story, and whether it's from a faith perspective or from a Lyme disease perspective, they just reach out with beautiful words and beautiful feedback, and it just has blown me away. This book really has taken angel wings.
It's the effect it's having now is clear to you. When you were writing it, were you writing it to be educational, to inspire, to honor your daughter? What was sort of behind the writing of it in the first place?
I think it was all of that. I think that I was in a book club at Fresno State University, a local university. There was about 25 of us in this book club, and one of the gals there had written a book. And after Alex had passed, I did some speaking, and there were some awards, business awards that I was presented with my work in the nonprofit field with Catholic Charities, but then also with the work that I was starting up in Alex's foundation. And I remember after speaking at one of these events, a gentleman came up to me afterwards and he said, "Wow." He goes, "You have quite a story. I can't wait to read your book." And I looked at him and I'm like, "Book? Like, I'm a businesswoman. I write grants. I don't journal. I don't do any of that." And nor did Alex. I mean, it would have been so easy just to plagiarize and grab, journals and books that she did, but she read a book a day. And even, leading up to her death in March of 2018, she devoured her books. But that comment had always sat with me. And so I just kind of, prayed to God about it and said, if this is something that you want me to do, then you're going to have to help provide the resources. I don't even know where to start with all of this. And so he just kept, telling me, you have to sit down, you have to write this book. And so I talked to one of my girlfriends who had written a book and self-published it. And I said, I'm thinking about doing this. Like, where do I even start? And she said, Jody, she goes, you know what? Just probably start at the hardest part, which is Alex's passing. So I sat down one night at my laptop and started, writing some words. And just that scene alone, Rory, probably took me a good week and a half. And I didn't realize at the time, but it was therapeutic for me as well. Like God wanted me to process this, you know, to get through all of this. So that way I could open up and really, get into more of the book. And so I sat down and finished that first scene. And then 4 months later, I had a 40,000 word manuscript. And it truly was by the grace of God because I was working full time. I was starting Alex's foundation full time, being a single mom. So this book took up all of my waking hours at night, on the weekends. I was just obsessed with it. Like I had to get it out. Now, if you were to ask me today, hey, Jody, are you thinking about writing another book? I'd look at you and be like, are you crazy? I don't even know how I did the first one. It was definitely the grace of God. But it truly, like I said, is on angel wings. And I think it's something that we have to look at in our lives when, God is like nudging on you to do something so out of your element. And you're like, oh, I don't know, God, I don't know, God. But if you listen to him and you take action on it, he will make sure that you walk through it and he will help you do it.
Nice. Nice. Now, as the founder of the Alex Hudson Lyme Foundation as well, this foundation seems to maybe have a little more particular purpose to it.
It does. So this foundation really, it was Alex passing the baton on to me because she was a brilliant student. She had a full ride scholarship to UCLA, and she wanted to attend so she could major in nonprofit field and start a Lyme Foundation because she saw firsthand the injustice of Lyme patients where insurance doesn't pay for a lot of treatment. A lot of families go bankrupt. I had to sell a car. I mean, I spent $100,000 wiping out my savings myself just to try and help Alex get better in that last year. So this was something that she wanted to do. And so, basically she passed the torch on to me. And when Alex passed away, the Lyme community reached out to me. The Lyme community is amazing. I mean, on a national level, there are so many different organizations, and people reached out to me. How can we help you? If there's anything that you want to do, and with that came money. I mean, within like the first week or two, people had given me like $25,000 through a GoFundMe and other things
Wow.
that people had set up for me. So I knew that I had to start this foundation. And so I petitioned for it, and I thought, okay, people tell me it takes a good year for a 501(c)(3) to come about, so I'll have time um, to be able to wean off from the nonprofit world that I was in to truly focus on Alex's foundation. Well, you know, Rory, there's our plan and God's plan. And God didn't give me a year, He gave me a month. Because within 30 days, I got a letter back saying, congratulations, you are now a proud 501(c)(3) nonprofit, foundation. And I called my accountant. I'm like, Roland, is this real? Like, is this fake news? He goes, I love it too. He said, Jody, sometimes the good Lord does things there are no explanations for. Congratulations. You have a new 501(c)(3. And I'm like, oh, crap. I'm not ready.
Be careful what you wish for. Exactly.
Amen.
So, yeah,
Amen.
that's hilarious. There's our plans, and then there's God laughing at us trying to
Exactly.
make plans. Right,
Exactly.
exactly.
All the time.
Um,
God has a good time with me.
so, I mean, the main purpose then of the Alex Hudson Lyme Foundation, is it then research or is it education? Maybe
So
both.
it's all of it. It's to raise funds to help support individuals going through Lyme treatment. Also, within the first year of our foundation, we partnered with agency, a nonprofit agency out in New York called Global Lyme Alliance.
Hmm.
And we were able to co-sponsor a $50,000 research grant with them that had Alex's name attached to it. So we do a lot. We do, fundraising for treatment. We do fundraising for research, and then we just do a lot of awareness, which May is Lyme Disease Awareness Month. And so I always make sure that I'm out there, reminding people about doing your checks when you're out, in the woods and you're outdoors and this and that. So it's just constant reminders because I feel like the more that we can be educated and more that, families know about the prevention, we can absolutely help people from getting Lyme disease.
Wow. All right. So prevention's part of this
Yes,
goal too.
yes, absolutely. And I'm really proud that with the Girl Scouts of USA, I have developed a Lyme curriculum where Girl Scouts can actually go through a Lyme curriculum and then they can receive a Lyme disease awareness patch that they can, apply to their vest. And on that patch is the Girl Scouts logo along with the Alex Hudson Lyme Foundation logo. So it's pretty cool that, Alex's foundation and Alex's story just continues to be spread throughout the country in different venues.
Yeah. That's amazing that she gets to, live on in that way with her legacy based on what you're doing with it. It sounds like you feel like you've been called to this work.
I do, and I feel that um, I just retired last August, and I feel like I made a commitment to God, saying, for all the blessings that you have given me, it's about time that I really lean more into my faith and more into my testimony and whatever it is that I can do to honor you and to continue to honor Alex. So I've been blessed with getting to know people like yourself through this, pod match. I'm doing a lot more speaking engagements anywhere that I can share my faith testimony and inspire others, and then still sprinkle in Alex's beautiful story.
Yeah. I'm sure Alex would love the work that you're doing right now. It sounds like she was very into her faith.
You know what? She still does it with me. I mean, there's my book on the cover, there's a bluebird on it. And people ask me all the time, why did you choose a bluebird for the cover? Well, a bluebird is a symbol of hope. And this bluebird is something that came every day to Alex at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And it would sit on our fountain out in the courtyard that was adjacent to Alex's bedroom. And so she would see this bluebird every day at 3 o'clock through the window. And one day I asked her, I said, Alex, when you see that bluebird, what does it symbolize to you? Do you, think much about it? And she said, oh, yeah, Mom. She goes, I think about it all the time. She says, when I see that bluebird, it gives me hope. She said, I know that God hasn't forgotten about me, and it's another day that I can try and do some good in the world. So here is this individual basically on her deathbed, still thinking how every day that she can wake up, give glory to God, and do good in the world. And if that doesn't inspire anybody listening to this conversation, I mean, I don't know what will.
Wow. If you don't mind me asking, and you don't have to answer this question, but you mentioned that after 20 years you found yourself divorced, and you were kind of dealing with this on your own with your daughter.
Yep.
Did her father have any interaction with any of this?
So unfortunately, because back in 2017, many people didn't know about Lyme disease. It was
Mhm.
really hard for her father to accept that as well, and her family. So we kind of were on our own as far as trying to find treatment, as far as paying for it.
Mhm.
We were, I was divorced from Alex's dad, and it was really a tough time for her emotionally, physically, mentally. They were able to reconcile at the end, and Alex was so beautiful at the end, making sure that she met and she reached out to people that she did not have a good relationship with. Like she was clearing her path to heaven. She wanted to make sure that there was nothing that, was going to keep her from that path. So she re-engaged with her father, told him that she loved him, had really good moments with him. And it made me so proud of her, that here, this individual that should have been there during her hardest time in her life and really wasn't, just because of his own ignorance with her disease and what she was going through. Alex forgave him and let him know that she still loved him. And so, in that moment, I had to forgive him as well. And I have a clear path today, realizing that, you know, I'm good. Like if something were to happen to me today, I have forgiven everybody that treated her wrong, or even the medical community that put her in psych lockdowns and did horrible things to her.
Yeah.
If Alex can forgive them, then surely I can as well.
Wow. And again, what a story. It sounds like that might be something you learned from her.
Absolutely. She taught me so much. It's interesting. We're supposed to be, teaching our children, and we do. We give them such a beautiful foundation and we teach them all the things that we're supposed to. But then there comes a time in life where it flips and it turns. And sometimes it's later on when your parents maybe are ailing and you become the parent and whatnot. But like with Alex, I feel like it flipped with us, especially in like the last 6 months where I was being taught by her about my faith and about forgiveness and how to lead a Christ-like life. And, I give her all the credit along with God, obviously, but she really helped turn my faith around. And it's by the grace of God I'm standing here today. And it's also by Alex's, own testimony and her faith walk that I'm standing here today.
Wow. No, I understand writing the book, is, several parts. It's educational. It's, a way to honor Alex, and so on, get the story out. But what is it that you hope parents in particular take away from your book, from your story, from your podcast appearances, to possibly, help them?
So I think, reading this book, and it is a hard, read, obviously, because it doesn't end with a happy ending. Alex passes.
Right.
I think the biggest takeaway is really just leaning into your faith and just knowing that even in the hardest challenges and struggles of your life, you may not think that God's presence is always there, and you might think, like I did several times, where is God in all of this? And why is he allowing this? And all these questions that we ask. And now that I've come through this on the other side, I can definitely look back and see moments where, oh my gosh, God was showing up and I didn't even realize that. Like the bluebird, he was sending us signs, he was letting us know that he's still with us. And so, we get so busy in our lives with so much, distractions and noise. And every day I challenge myself to look for the blessings, to look and see where God is showing up that maybe I'm just ignoring it. Sometimes, God literally has to smack me in the head with messages like, okay, I've been trying to give you this message for a while. Like now I'm going to have to really boom, put it in your head. But, I just want people to realize God suffered. We all suffer. That's just part of life. But there are still blessings around the corner. Keep leaning into your faith. It's not going to be dark forever. And the greatest thing that we can do as a Christian is to continue to show up and let people see light in us when we are in those dark moments and we have gone through those dark moments, because that's when people look at you and go, there's something different about this person. I know what it is. She's got God in her. Like
Hmm.
I see it in the good times. I see it in the bad times. And really that's, God just wants us to keep showing up. He's never gone anywhere. It's us that we have gone and we've left him, or we were mad at him, or we're just too busy to have a relationship with him. He's always there. So I just challenge people, keep leaning in every day, say, all right, God, like, what's our game plan for today? What are we going to do? How are you going to help me? How can I honor you through everything that I'm going through? It's tough. But I think if you take your mind off of all the suffering and all the darkness and try and bring a little bit of light into it, like, God, just use me today. Like, let me show up for somebody, because we're all going through things in life. But how can we help others? And how can we be more like Alex? Look at her from a bed, reaching out to people, being comfort, praying for them, redemptive suffering, taking on their suffering. How can we be more like that?
That's a great message. It really is. I'm curious also, just in terms of the practical aspect of all of this, with the Lyme disease and everything else that you both went through, all the way back to, and you mentioned it briefly, but forced psychological lockdowns. I mean, for crying out loud, while they're trying to diagnose this. Is there a message in here somewhere to the medical community?
So I speak to lots of different organizations and to a lot of different communities, and I've been blessed to be able to speak at medical conferences and be embraced as a mother, as a Lyme disease patient caregiver. I've been really blessed to be able to speak from that perspective where as a medical community, if you do not know what's wrong with your patient, if they are coming to you and they are telling you all these different symptoms, and like in Alex's case, well, we know there's something wrong with you, but it's a medical mystery. Maybe you'll outgrow it. Maybe, it'll show up in blood work tests years down the road. Always, 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 be your own advocate. Keep, using that voice. You are not crazy. I mean, so many people looked at Alex and gaslighted her because they just saw this, young, pretty girl that was losing weight, and they automatically made assumptions. She has an eating disorder. She has a mental disorder. And even after we got the test saying that she was positive for Lyme disease and brought these records with us, into hospitals where she needed to get IVs for nutrition as she was trying to take on aggressive treatment. And they would, they put her in a lockdown because they thought it was more mental than it was a physical problem. All these things that she endured. It just makes me, want to have a strong message to individuals that if you're battling something, keep using your voice. If you don't have the right doctor, if you're not feeling it's the right fit, go find someone that will believe in you. Because you know your body and you know your health and you know your symptoms better than anybody else. So never give up. There's a lot of good doctors out there. Unfortunately, like any profession, there's, maybe some doctors that aren't as, experienced or knowledgeable in the Lyme disease field. So find the right fit, but believe in yourself and have a voice.
Wow. It sounds like Alex had a very strong message to kind of share with the world. And it seems as though you've taken it upon yourself to make sure that that message gets out there. In your opinion, do you think you've been running into some spiritual warfare here to try and keep that message from getting out?
I think anytime that we draw closer into our faith, into our relationship with God, and try and, do the right thing, spiritual warfare is always going to be battling you. And I found interesting that you asked this question because about a couple of months ago, I do two different Bible studies. I do a Catholic-based Bible study, and then I do a non-denominational Bible study.
Okay.
And are you familiar with the War Room with Priscilla Scher?
Yes,
Okay. Have you read her book, Fervent?
but no.
Amazing, amazing, amazing book. So you talk about
Okay.
spiritual warfare and you talk about, being on your hands and knees on prayer and being, intentional with your asks with God. It really has changed my whole prayer journaling. And I have found, a greater strength in fighting spiritual warfare by reading this book and really being active in my prayer request and really putting on the armor of God every day. Like, all right, let's do this. Like, I am fully covered in the armor. God, what do you have for me today? Like, let's just go out there and, make a team of this. But I do believe in that spiritual warfare, and you just always have got to be on your game because he loves to swoop in when he thinks that, you're not looking and that you're not paying attention and that you are vulnerable. So if you are always just being a good servant of God and, being a soldier, it's going to be a lot harder for him to take over.
Nice. Wonderful advice on that topic. I love that. I have one more question for you, but before I get to that one, I want to make sure that everybody finds out how to contact you, reach you, find the book, more information about your foundation. Give everybody your contact info.
Absolutely. And I do answer all phone calls, all emails. We have a website. It's www.alexhudsonlymefoundation.org. And that's Lyme, Lyme, not Lime. And on that website is my email address. There's phone numbers. There's also a link to Amazon if people are interested in reading more about what we've talked about today with Alex's story, whether it's Lyme disease, whether it's her faith walk. There's great resources in there as well. Mother's Day is coming up. It's a great mother-daughter relationship story. So people, can go on there and there's a link to buy it directly. But I just hope that by telling my story today, it gives others that are maybe battling things in their life. It just gives them some hope, some comfort, um, somewhere to go and, read about more on my story. And as I tell people, grief is not the end of my story. Love is. Love always wins out. So just keep on keeping on.
Love that. I love the advice. And that actually kind of segues right into the last question I wanted to ask you. And that is that With everything that Alex, put out there, everything that she believed in and everything she really led by example for, it seems like her story and your telling of it could open the way to maybe, assist in discipleship, bringing more people closer to their faith by showing them the power of faith in Alex's life. Is that something that you have considered? Is that something that you take advantage of?
That's a really great question. And I feel like now, as I said earlier, now that I'm retired, I really am trying to keep this lane just fully God focused, ministry focused by doing these podcasts, by speaking, bringing people closer to God, closer into that faith walk. There's been several people that have read this book and said, thank you. Like, I'm going back to church again. You've been an inspiration. Just the other day, I was sitting down with one of my friends who really tragic story. She lost her brother. The brother's wife is in prison just with mental health issues, and she now is raising her two nieces. One is 15, the other one is, I think, 10 or 11, and wants to get them into counseling. But she asked me, she goes, Jody, with everything that you've gone through, she goes, I think it'd be really good for them to just sit and to talk to you, and maybe you could help minister to them. So it's like God is just presenting these different things in my life right now that I always feel like if I'm presented with it, I have to walk through it because, like the book, look at what he's done with this book. So I just feel like maybe this is my next, calling is being more in that ministry, whether it's with grief individuals, whether it's individuals that have been more, wayside and are trying to get back into church just by being that example. I mean, in a lot of these podcasts that I've done recently, I've had some girlfriends reach out to me and other people that know me and say, I went to church this weekend. Thank you. Like you're jump starting something in me. So I think, Rory, just like what you're doing with your podcast, we don't realize how it turns into a ministry and how we are able to encourage others. So I guess it's a beautiful side benefit of what we're doing.
Yeah. Wonderful answer. I thank you so much for sharing the way that you have today. Folks, founder of the Alex Hudson Lyme Foundation and author of the incredible book that I cannot wait to pick up and read, My Promise to Alex, Jody Hudson. Jody, thank you for coming on and sharing your story and for just being open about everything that you were today, handling the questions that I did not prepare you for like an absolute champ. You've been nothing short of delightful. Thank you for being on the program.
Thank you so much. And you know what? I always say, before I do these podcasts, Lord, let these be your words and not mine, because if they are mine, I'm going to mess it up. So I never really have to worry about preparing because God's got me, right? He's just going to be like, okay, just use your mouth, but I'm going to give you the words, girlfriend. So just be with me. I've got you.
I think he helped us both today then.
Yes, he did.
All
He
right.
did.
All right, folks, it is time. It's time to wake up the lions. And more than that, it's time for you to take your rightful place with your brothers and sisters and let them hear you roar. The world is ready. You're ready. You just have to believe it. Until next time.